Welcome to the Old Time Radio Westerns. I'm your host, Andrew Rhines, and I'm excited to bring you another episode absolutely free. This episode is one of many released every month, totaling over 80 episodes so far. Each one is meticulously digitally restored and stored in the cloud for your convenience, a process that incurs costs. To help cover these expenses, you might hear some advertisements throughout the episode. While we do retain the original commercials for historical authenticity, you may also encounter modern ads, which help keep the lights on. If you prefer an ad-free experience, we offer a couple options. You can listen to the episodes on YouTube. You can also support us by becoming a patron on our Patreon page. For more information, go to otrwesterns.com/donate. Again, otrwesterns.com/donate. I do want to emphasize that we are committed to providing this content to you for free, but also we have to be transparent about the financial realities to bringing this to you. Now, let's get into this episode. This episode is going to be Challenge of the Yukon. Original air dates June 16th, 1951, and the title is Ghost of Louie Lachine. Let's get into it.
The Challenge of the Yukon. It's Yukon King, swiftest and strongest lead dog of the Northwest, blazing the trail for Sergeant Preston of the Northwest Mounted Police in his relentless pursuit of lawbreakers.
On King! On, you huskies!
Gold discovered in the Yukon. A stampede to the Klondike in the wild race for riches. Back to the days of the gold rush, with Sergeant Preston and his wonder dog, Yukon King, as they meet the Challenge of the Yukon. Sergeant Preston was driving his team along the Otter Creek Trail on his way to the settlement of Pine Ridge. He had just come in sight of a small miner's cabin when he was hailed by a boy playing on the bank of the frozen creek.
Sergeant Preston!
Hello, buddy. Walking. Hi, you huskies.
Hi, Sergeant. Hi, King, old Phil. Oh, Sergeant, I'm sure glad to see you.
You look as though you've something on your mind, buddy.
Yes, sir, I have. Do you believe in ghosts?
Why, of course not. You haven't been seeing one, I hope.
No, sir, but Grandpa, Mr. Fowler thinks he did. Just the other night.
You mean Gideon Fowler?
Yes, sir. He's not really my grandpa, but I wish he were.
Tell me about it.
Well, I was visiting Mr. Fowler, and we were all alone. And he was telling me a story about the old days in the territory.
Yes?
All of a sudden, he gave a gasp, and his face went awfully pale. And then he slumped over in his chair.
Well, Gideon has a weak heart.
Well, I tried to help. And finally, he opened his eyes and told me to get his medicine off the shelf. And after a while, when he felt better, he told me he'd seen a ghost at the window.
Well, what made him think it was a ghost?
Because he said it had the face of his dead partner.
Louie Lachine?
Yes, sir. He told me Mr. Lachine drowned 2 years ago.
Buddy, what you've told me is interesting. I think I'll stop in and see Gideon.
May I go with you, Sergeant?
If your father says you may.
He's working on his claim.
Get on the sled, buddy, and we'll go ask him.
Okay, yes, sir.
All right. On King! On, you huskies!
Buddy's father gave his permission for Buddy to accompany the sergeant. And a short time later, the sergeant and Buddy arrived at Gideon Fowler's cabin, which was located farther along the creek.
Walking! Hi, you huskies! Hello!
I hope Mr. Fowler is feeling better.
So do I, buddy.
Ever since he saw the ghost, the doctor made him stop working his claim.
Oh?
The door was opened by Beth Ryan, a pretty young girl who worked as a waitress in Dawson City.
Well, it's Sergeant Preston and Buddy.
Hello, Beth.
Come on in. You too, King.
Gideon Fowler was seated in a chair by the fireplace with a blanket over his knees.
Hello, Gideon.
Well, bless my soul, how are you, Sergeant? And I see you brought young Buddy along, eh?
Hi, Grandpa. Mr. Fowler.
Now, you go right ahead and call me Grandpa. I'd like nothing better than to have you for a grandson, Buddy.
I understand you've been feeling a little under the weather, Gideon.
I've been a mite poorly. Doc says I better watch this heart of mine or it may quit pumping on me one of these days.
Thank heavens he made you stop working your claim. It's about time you started taking things easy.
Sure is nice to have someone like you fussing over me. See, Beth's been bringing me some of her home-cooked victuals from town almost every day.
Well, after all, you're one of our best customers at the restaurant.
Yeah.
Oh, which reminds me, I'd better be getting back to town. I don't suppose you're going that way, are you, Sergeant?
Why, no, Beth. I'm on my way to Pine Ridge.
My dad'll hitch up our team and take you back to town, Miss Beth.
Oh, that's all right, buddy. I can walk back.
Oh, it's no trouble. He'll be glad to.
Yeah, I bet he will. Oh, look at the blush, Sergeant.
Well, if you're sure he won't mind, buddy.
Oh, of course not. I'll walk back to our cabin with you.
All right. Just let me get my parka.
I'll come back and see you later, Grandpa.
Don't you forget now, buddy. I'll be looking for you.
Goodbye, Mr. Fowler. Goodbye, Sergeant.
Goodbye, Beth.
Goodbye, and thanks again for those visitors.
Gideon, what's this I hear about you seeing a ghost?
So you heard about that, have you?
Yes, Buddy told me.
Well, it's true. And that's not the only time either.
You've seen this ghost before?
Yep. About a week ago was the first time. Scared the living daylights out of me.
Sure it wasn't just your imagination?
You're doggone right, I'm sure. It was my dead partner, Louie Lachine. Take a look at that picture there on the table.
This one?
That's right. Louie and I had that photograph taken down in Skagway. And that's just how Louie's ghost looked. Fur cap, big bushy mustache, and a black patch across his left eye, just like in that picture. And his face was all ghastly white. Oh, by criminy, Sergeant, it was horrible.
Louie was drowned in the Yukon River, wasn't he?
That's right. 2 years ago.
You'd been friends a long time, hadn't you?
Ever since 74. We teamed up down on the Fraser River in British Columbia. Louis was a big French-Canadian. The best partner a man ever had.
Still blame yourself for his death?
Oh, shucks, I can't help it, Sergeant. Louis and I, we always hit it off fine together, right up to the time we staked this claim on Otter Creek. Then we kind of started getting on each other's nerves.
Cabin fever.
Yes, I reckon so. Anyway, we finally had a big bust-up. We cut the cards to see who'd get the claim, and I won. So Louis took the team and lit out by himself. The ice was starting to thaw on the river, and Louis tried to cross, but he hit a bad spot. Went through and drowned. Huskies and all.
There's no reason to blame yourself, Gideon.
I feel it wouldn't have happened if we hadn't had that quarrel. The worst of it was, right after Louis died, the claim started to pay off in a big way. I've taken more than 30,000 in gold out of these diggings.
How many people know this story?
Well, most of my friends, I reckon. I talk about it sometimes when I'm feeling bad. Why?
Oh, I wonder if someone's playing a trick on you.
That ghost was real, Sergeant. I tell you, I saw it with my own eyes.
Hmm? Well, in any case, I wish you weren't staying here alone, Gideon.
Oh, I'm not alone. My nephew's staying with me.
Your nephew?
Virgil Fowler, his name is. Used to work for the Yukon Commercial Company, but he came here to live with me a couple of weeks ago. Claimed I need looking after. Yeah. The fact is, I think he got fired.
Where is he now?
He took the team up the valley a ways to get some firewood.
Huh? Well, King and I'd better be on our way. Now, you take it easy, Gideon. And don't continue blaming yourself for what happened to your partner.
I'll try not to. Sure was nice of you to stop. Yeah, I reckon that must be Virgil now. Back sooner than I expected.
Well, hello there.
Virgil, this is a good friend of mine, Sergeant Preston Lamarty.
Howdy, Sergeant Preston. I've heard a lot about you.
Glad to know you.
Well, take off your parka. I'll fix you a cup of coffee.
No, thanks. King and I were just leaving.
You figure on staying over at Pine Ridge a spell?
No, we'll be coming back tonight. In the meantime, Gideon, take care of yourself.
Yeah, don't worry about me. So long, Sergeant.
Goodbye.
Bye. Come along, King.
Evan Drake had little to say as he drove Beth back to town on his sled. Beth remarked on his silence when they finally arrived at the restaurant.
Oh, there, boy, oh. Here, let me help you out of the sled.
Thanks, Evans. It was awfully nice of you to bring me back to town.
With a pleasure.
You haven't had much to say for yourself.
Well, I'll say this much, Beth. I haven't had much luck since I came to the Yukon. Meeting you is about the only good thing that's happened to me.
I'd never guess it from the way you've acted. You haven't exactly sought out my company.
A man who's as near broke as I am has no business courting any girl.
Do you think women always judge a man by his bank account?
I believe it's happened once or twice.
Money means nothing to me.
Well, it does to me. I'm fed up with this business of trying to dig gold out of a worthless claim. And what's more, I intend to do something about it.
What do you mean?
I mean... Well, never mind that. But one of these days, I may not be so short of money. When that happens, I intend to ask you to marry me.
Oh.
Well?
I can't accept until you do it.
Oh, that settles it. Oh, you just wait, Beth. Just wait. You may be hearing that proposal sooner than you think.
That evening, after supper, Virgil Fowler put on his parka. Gideon looked up in surprise.
You going somewhere, Virgil?
I figured I might make a trip to town tonight.
The sky was looking mighty clouded over just before dark. If you ask me, it's fixing to snow.
A little snow won't bother me.
Well, suit yourself.
Gideon was seated in his usual chair by the fireplace. For some time after his nephew had hitched up the team and driven away, the old man continued to sit staring into the flames. Finally, his head nodded, and he began to doze. Outside, the wind howled around the cabin. The snow began to come down heavily. Presently, Gideon was awakened by a light, persistent tapping at the door.
Who's that? Yes, come in, come in. Who in thunder? What?
Suddenly, the old man's mouth dropped open in a choking gasp, and an icy chill ran down his spine. There, in the open doorway, stood a tall, mustachioed figure with a black patch over one eye.
Who are you?
Don't you recognize your old partner?
Louie?
Sure, I am Louie. Louie Lachine. Back from the dead.
Oh, no, it can't be. You're drowned?
Mais oui, I drowned. Thanks to you.
No.
Now you must help me. Help me to find rest. Come. Come with me, Gideon.
My heart,
Never mind your heart. Think of your dead partner who needs your help. Come.
Yes, I'll come, Louie.
Painfully, Gideon staggered to his feet. His face was deathly pale, and he clutched his chest as a twinge of agony shot through him. But he was hypnotized by the ghostly figure in the doorway.
Come. Come with me, Gideon.
Yes, I'm coming, Louie. I'm coming.
We'll continue our adventure in just a moment.
Sergeant Preston was on his way back to Dawson City from his visit to Pine Ridge. He had just come in sight of Gideon Fowler's cabin on Otto Creek when the glow of light from within showed him that the cabin door was wide open in spite of the bitter weather. Wondering if something might be wrong, the sergeant decided to investigate.
Looking! Hi, come on, boy, let's have a look inside. Well, that's strange. No one's here. Gideon was certainly in no shape to be out on a night like this.
Going back to the doorway, the sergeant looked out. Almost obliterated by the falling snow, he could make out the faint traces of footprints leading away from the cabin.
We'd better find him, boy. We can't let the old man die.
After lighting a lantern to enable him to follow the footprints through the snow, the sergeant gathered up Gideon's discarded blanket. He let King sniff it in order to get the old man's scent, and then he started out with his team. The trail led up the hillside overlooking the creek. They hadn't gone far when a series of barks from King announced that he had found Gideon.
Ho, you huskies! Ho!
The old man was sprawled in the snow and showed no sign of life as King licked his face.
I'll try his pulse. Oh, he's alive, boy.
Carrying the old man back to his sled, Sergeant Preston wrapped him in the blanket and hurried to the cabin. There he began working feverishly to revive him. And finally, Gideon's eyes flickered open.
Sergeant Preston, where am I?
It's all right, Gideon. You're back in your cabin.
The ghost. I saw Louie's ghost again.
I had an idea something like that had happened. You feel like talking about it?
Yes. But first, get me my medicine. It's over there on the shelf.
After taking his medicine, the color began to return to the old man's cheeks. After he told his story, Sergeant Preston said,
Gideon, from what you've told me, I think someone's deliberately trying to cause your death.
Cause my death? I don't understand.
You have a weak heart, Gideon. Whoever's in back of this scheme apparently figured that a series of shocks caused by seeing the ghost of your dead partner would eventually kill you. Tonight, when you didn't keel over, he decided to lead you out into the storm. Probably figured you'd die of exposure.
But who would want to kill me?
Have you ever made a will?
Sure, just recently.
And the heir?
Well, there's 3 of them. They come in for equal shares. One is my nephew Virgil, one is little Buddy Drake, and the other's Beth Ryan.
Do they know the terms of your will?
Yes, I told them when I had it drawn up.
Well, that gives us 3 possible suspects.
Oh, now, that's crazy, Sergeant. I don't know about Virgil, but not Beth Ryan. And you sure can't suspect a young'un like Buddy.
What about his father?
Evan Drake?
I've heard his claim hasn't panned out and he needs money. What's more, he used to be an actor. With a false mustache and a patch over one eye, it wouldn't be hard to impersonate Louie's ghost. He's probably seen that photograph there on the table.
Holy mackerel. But what about Beth? You're not thinking she could have dressed up like Louie?
I find it hard to suspect Beth, but remember she has a brother. They might have planned the thing between them.
Oh, God, I just can't believe it.
Gideon, in your condition, I don't like to leave you alone, but there's a chance King and I can track down this ghost. If not, I'd like to check on Evan Drake.
You go to it, Sergeant. Don't worry about me.
Do you have a gun?
Sure, in that table drawer there.
I'll get it for you. There you are.
But what's the idea?
If someone's plotting against your life, I don't want to leave you unprotected. I doubt if you'll have to use this gun, but keep it handy. All right, King, let's go, boy.
After leaving Gideon's cabin, Sergeant Preston drove back up the hillside to the spot where he had found the old man. But by now, the rapidly falling snow had wiped out the last trace of footprints, and the howling winds had completely dispersed the scent trail of the man who had impersonated the ghost. Finally, the sergeant gave up the search and headed his team toward Evan Drake's cabin. When he arrived at the cabin a short time later, he saw a light in the window.
Well, King, hurry!
Sergeant Preston. Come on in.
Thanks. You're up late, Evan.
I couldn't sleep.
Where's Buddy?
In the back room. He's asleep.
Has he been sleeping long?
3 or 4 hours? Why?
You been here at the cabin all evening?
Sure.
Where's your parka?
Hanging up back there in the corner.
You haven't left the cabin. How does it happen your parka's wet?
Well, I went out back to feed the dogs.
This time of night? Sorry, Evan, that won't do. From the condition of this parka, you must have been outdoors in the blizzard for quite a while.
Hey, for Pete's sake, why all the questions? What's this all about?
Evan, I'll give you one more chance to tell me the truth. Where did you go this evening?
I can't tell you. It's none of your business.
I warn you, you're under suspicion of attempted murder.
Murder?
That's right. Tonight someone tried to kill Gideon Fowler by posing as the ghost of his dead partner. Since you can't account for your whereabouts, and since you'd profit by his death, I'll have to arrest you.
Oh, now, wait a minute, Sergeant. I had no idea. I'll tell you where I was.
Go ahead.
Well, I need money badly. This afternoon I get feeling desperate, so I decided to hold up the nearest roadhouse. Tonight, after Buddy went to sleep, I started out. But after I got there, I just couldn't go through with it, so I turned around and came home.
You think a jury would accept that story?
But it's the truth.
Well, Evan, I'm inclined to believe you, but I can't take any chances. For the time being, I'll have to take you into custody.
All right. My own fault. What about Buddy?
We can't leave him here alone. He'll have to come with us.
All right, Sergeant. I'll wake the boy.
Before leaving, Sergeant Preston made a thorough search of the cabin, but found no trace of the ghost's disguise. Then he ordered Evan to hitch his team, and the group started out. Instead of heading straight for Dawson City, the sergeant first returned to Gideon Fowler's cabin to make sure the old man was all right. Gideon was taken back when he saw Buddy's tearful face and heard the sergeant's story.
Drat it, Sergeant. I don't know what to make of it.
Dad wouldn't do anything wrong, Sergeant Preston. I know he wouldn't. Won't you please believe me?
Steady, son.
I'm sorry, Buddy. If your father's innocent, he has nothing to fear. Evan, I'm going to ask you and Buddy to wait outside for the next few minutes. I have something to discuss with Gideon.
All right. Come along, son.
Go with him, King. Guard, boy.
Don't worry, Sergeant. I'll not run away.
I'm sure you won't, Evan, with King watching you.
Well, now that they've gone, Sergeant, what is it you wanted to talk to me about?
Gideon, I have a plan that may clear up this whole thing, but I'll need your help.
I'll do anything I can. What do you have in mind?
Now, here's my idea. Suppose I would...
Gideon listened earnestly while Sergeant Preston explained his plan. When the Mountie was through speaking, the old man exclaimed,
Doggone it, Sergeant, I'm all for it. I reckon that ought to prove things one way or the other.
How soon do you think your nephew will come back from town?
He should have been back long ago. Must be making the rounds of all the cafes.
I'll wait for him, Gideon.
A short time later, Virgil Fowler entered the cabin.
Well, hello. Looks like this is your night for visitors, Uncle Gid. Drake and his little boy outside and Sergeant Preston inside. Oh, what the dickens going on?
There's been plenty going on. What kept you so late?
I stuck around town hoping the blizzard would die down, but it didn't, so I came back anyway.
Your uncle nearly lost his life tonight.
What's that?
The ghost of Louie Lachine made another appearance.
That ghost again. Are you sure you're not just seeing things, Uncle Gid?
He wasn't just seeing things. Gideon's been the victim of a definite plot. The so-called ghost lured him outdoors and left him to die of exposure.
Yes, and I reckon I would have died, too, if the sergeant hadn't found me.
Great Scott. Have you any idea who's back of the scheme?
Sergeant Preston thinks it may be Evan Drake.
Drake?
He can't account for his whereabouts tonight, and he stands to profit through Buddy by your uncle's death.
Well, I'll be hanged. I never thought of that.
Virgil, your uncle's a mighty sick man.
Oh, I don't wonder.
As soon as I get back to town, I'm going to send someone out here to nurse him.
What? You think that's necessary?
Yes, I do. If it weren't for this blizzard, I'd take him to the hospital tonight. And there's one other precaution I think we'd better take.
What's that, Sergeant?
First thing tomorrow, I suggest you send for your lawyer and change your will. Add a clause specifying that payment be withheld if there's any reason to believe your death is caused by some unusual shock.
What's the reason for that, Sergeant?
It may not be possible to prove a case against Drake, but we can remove any temptation for a repeat performance by the ghost.
I'll do as you say, Sergeant.
All right, Gideon. I'll be on my way with Evan and Buddy. In the meantime, Virgil, take good care of your uncle.
Yes, I'll certainly do that, Sergeant.
For some time after Sergeant Preston and the others had gone, Virgil Fowler sat brooding by the fireplace. He seemed to be turning something over in his mind. Finally, his uncle remarked,
Why, Sunday, don't you put out the lamp and turn in?
You're forgetting something, Uncle Gid. Sergeant Preston said he was going to send someone out from town to look after you.
Well, what of it? I reckon that don't mean you have to sit up all hours of the night waiting.
Yes, I think maybe you're right, Uncle Gid. I'd better not wait any longer.
Eh? What do you mean?
Just what I said.
Virgil got up from his chair. There was a strange glint in his eye as he approached his uncle's bunk.
Say, what in the dickens is wrong with you? What are you looking at me that way for?
Fact is, I'm going to have to kill you.
Kill me? What are you talking about?
Sergeant Preston hasn't left me any choice. After tonight, there'll be someone with you all the time, and on top of that, you'll be changing your will tomorrow. So if I want to collect that inheritance, I'd better settle things right now.
For the love of heaven, Virg, have you gone crazy?
Crazy? Why, no, Uncle Gid, far from it. You see, I'm the one who impersonated Louie Lachine's ghost.
You?
That's right. Come. Come with me, Gideon.
Jumping Jupiter. Then it was you all along.
Sure. With that weak heart of yours and your bad conscience over Louie Lachine, I didn't think it would take much spooking to hurry things along. But you're a tough old buzzard, Uncle Gid. A lot tougher than I figured. So I'll have to take stronger measures.
What are you aiming to do?
Hold a pillow over your head. You'll struggle a bit, but after a while you'll drift off, and that'll be the end.
Oh, no. You'll never get away with it, Verge.
I think I shall. After all, you've been through a bad time tonight. Your heart just couldn't stand the strain. And as for that ghost business, I imagine Preston will pin that on Drake.
No, don't do it, Verge.
Sorry, but I have to...
Shut your hands up, Fowler.
Preston.
Turn around. Move away from your uncle.
All right. You've got me, Preston.
As Virgil turned, his eye fell on his uncle's revolver lying on the floor beside the bunk. The table was standing close by, within easy reach. Virgil's mind worked fast. Suddenly, he kicked over the table and dropped to the floor. The sergeant had ducked aside from his exposed position in the doorway, just in time to avoid Virgil's bullets. But King, who was already inside the room, moved in a different direction.
Throw down your gun, Preston, or I'll kill the old man.
Take him, take!
What? No! Get out, my...
Virgil's gun went off, but the bullet plowed harmlessly into the wall as King's attack pinned him to the floor. Great Dog gripped his gun arm.
Help! Get him away from me!
All right, King. I have his gun. On guard, boy. You all right, Gideon?
Yes, sure, I'm all right. Dad ratted I wasn't much help to you. But I saw King closing in, and I figured he could handle things better than I could.
You did the right thing by staying out of it. I never would have gone through with my plan if I'd known there'd be this much excitement.
Don't worry about me. The main thing is your plan worked.
What?
You trapped this poor cat nephew of mine.
You mean this whole setup was just part of a scheme?
That's right. I had an idea you'd convict yourself if you thought this was your last chance to do away with your uncle.
May Buddy and I come in now, Sergeant?
Come ahead, Evan. I'll handcuff Virgil, and then we'll take him back to town.
Evan and Buddy stayed at Gideon's cabin until the sergeant could send someone from town to take care of the old man. Dawn was breaking, and Buddy was dozing on his father's lap when they heard a dog team stop outside the cabin. A moment later, the door opened.
Beth.
Hello, Evan. Hello, Mr. Fowler.
So this is the person you brought back to nurse me, Sergeant.
Think she'll do?
You're doggone right she will. Take off your pocket, Beth.
I suppose the sergeant's told you all about what happened last night.
Beth understands, and so do I. She told me about your conversation. Just don't get any more ideas about breaking the law.
I'll see to that personally, Sergeant.
Well, does that mean what I think it means?
We'll discuss that later.
You hear that, Sergeant? Dad ratted. Look at the two of them. See, buddy, you come on over here to me, eh?
Yes, sir.
How would you like to have me for your grandpa? Your real grandpa?
My real grandpa? Oh, golly, I'd like that fine.
Well, in that case, I reckon maybe you and your pa better move in here with me. I'm getting too old to work my claim, so I'll let him take over for me.
You mean that?
Well, of course I mean it.
Golly, Oh, but wait. I'm afraid we'll not be able to accept your offer.
Eh?
At least not for a while yet.
Why not?
First, there's a little matter of a honeymoon for Beth and me.
A honeymoon. Why, Sunday, you're right. I was forgetting all about that.
Oh, gosh, Dad. Does that mean that you and...
It means, Buddy, that from now on you'll not only have a new grandpa, you'll also have a new mother.
Oh, gee whiz, that's wonderful. Then from now on we'll all be together.
Yes, that's right, son. All four of us.
And there's a man we have to thank for it. Sergeant Preston.
Forget the thanks, Gideon. As far as King and I are concerned, this case is closed.
In our next adventure, in the cabin of a murdered sourdough, Sergeant Preston stands facing two killers, one of whom holds a gun at the back of Preston's friend, the constable.
All right, Sergeant, I got a gun at the constable's back.
You won't get away with this.
No? Drop your gun, Sergeant. I'll plug the constable. Drop it!
Very well.
Now, bullets in both you Mounties before we head for the border.
Forced to drop his gun to save the life of his friend, Sergeant Preston finds that they're both to be victims of the two killers. Be sure to hear this next exciting adventure. These radio dramas, a feature of the Challenge of the Yukon Incorporated, are created by George W. Trendle, produced by Trendle Campbell Enterprises, directed by Fred Flowerday, and supervised by Charles D. Livingston. The part of Sergeant Preston is played by Paul Sutton. The Challenge of the Yukon is brought to you every Saturday and Sunday. This is J. Michael wishing you goodbye and good luck until our next adventure. This is the Mutual Broadcasting System.
This has been a presentation of OTRWesterns.com, and we hope you enjoyed. Please take some time to like and rate our shows in your favorite podcast application. Follow us on Facebook by going to OTRWesterns.com/Facebook. Subscribe to our YouTube channel by going to OTRWesterns.com/YouTube. And send us an email, podcast@OTRWesterns.com. You can call and leave us a voicemail, 707-986-8739. This episode is copyright under the Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike copyright. For more information, go to OTRWesterns.com/copyright. Have a great day, and thanks for listening.